This is the Culture Study Podcast, and I'm Anne Helen Peterson.
And I'm Gustavo Arellano, columnist for the Los Angeles Times.
When I thought about doing an episode on Southern California, you were the first person that came to mind, in part because in all of the conversations that we've had, like, you managed to put in references to various places in Southern California that makes me incredibly curious to explore more and more and more every time that we talk. And so that's part of it. But What would you say your bona fides are as a Southern Californian person?
Oh, my God. Born and raised Anaheim, a.k.a. Anacrime, which is in Orange County, California, one of the most accursed places in the United States, which, by the way, gives me an outsider's perspective and insiders at the same time. My family's been now in Southern California 5 generations, from my great-grandfather who picked oranges back when Orange County had a bunch of oranges, all the way to my nephew. So that's 5 generations. I have spent my entire life here as a person, as a writer for the most part, and also, I mean, Southern California is where it's at for both the beauty, the problems, the future of this country, the past. Like, it is, I know it's a humongous region, but still, in many ways, it really embodies all that's horrible, yet wonderful. Because at the end, I'm an optimist above everything. I'm a cynic who's an optimist.
Yes, you are.
Of the American dream. And it's what ne plus ultra, however you say that, is a California dream. So, and really, when we talk about the California dream,
ultra,
ne plus ultra, whatever.
That's a great French accent for a Spanish-speaking person, because French is my second language. But then when I try to do Spanish, I'm just swallowing everything. I'm like not saying any words.
I somehow don't believe that, but sure.
Anytime I see a consonant, I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't say that, because that's how you do it in French. So, when we said we were going to do this, you were like, make sure and encourage readers to submit questions that aren't just about LA. How do you think that LA, I don't know, like, occludes conversation about like the diversity of Southern California? Because it is so many things that are not just LA.
Oh, my God. I literally just had this... how can I put this politely? Because it was a polite conversation, but this beef, let's just call it beef, with my editors, where there was a story recently where that we ran, that we talked about a certain group saying like, oh yeah, they're part of the Los Angeles area. I'm like, they're not the Los Angeles area. It's Orange County. I am going to advocate for Orange County. So right there, just a disappearance. When we talk about Southern California, technically, we are going all the way from like Ventura County, which is right at the edge of Santa Barbara, to the Arizona border, out in the Mojave Desert, so Riverside, San Bernardino County, to obviously LA County, and then Orange County. We exclude San Diego for reasons I've never really cared about, because who cares about San Diego? Sorry, that's my Southern California bias. It's a wonderful place. But we're talking about a region, geez, that alone's what, like 23 million people?
Wow.
It's huge. It's huge. And LA is a big chunk of that. Of course it is.
Yeah.
Like the city of Los Angeles alone is 7 million. I think LA County, is 17 million. Orange County is 3 million. The Inland Empire, which is Riverside and San Bernardino County, that's another about 6 million. Then I think Ventura County is about 1 million, maybe a little bit less. But we're talking about a huge, huge place that is bigger than most states. Yet the rest of the country, and understandably so, you look at the big city, the megalopolis, Los Angeles, and you think of a lot of stereotypes. I mean, the great example, of course, was... who was it? Snoop and the Red Hot Chili Peppers in the concert during the Paris Olympics that was exclaiming, yeah, this is going to be an LA concert. Well, Snoop is technically, I believe, from Claremont, which is one of the suburban college cities out there in the eastern portion of Los Angeles. And the concert itself was held in Long Beach. All of them completely different areas, all a long answer to say, yeah, there's a lot of subtleties in Southern California. That's not just all LA.
Yes. It's interesting that you exclude San Diego. Do you think Palm Springs is involved?
Absolutely. Palm Springs, we're talking about Coachella. We're talking about Compton. We're talking about Skid Row. We're talking about, JPL Laboratory. Camp Pendleton's interesting because it's technically federal property. in San Diego County. And San Diego historically has been more of the military area of the southern portion of Southern California. But Pendleton is right next to San Clemente, which is the southernmost tip of Orange County. So it's kind of Southern California. So you just have all these different places really melding into this. And a lot of times people forget, oh, yeah, that's part of Southern California, even in Southern California.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I'm going to tee up our first question because I think it will also allow us to talk about part of why we're doing this episode. So this comes from Danielle.
I have lived in Southern California my entire life, and I'm not sure what is bizarre, interesting, or alarming about our culture. I've not spent enough time anywhere else to be told how different I am as a Southern California person. Can you please enlighten me as to what you are getting at?
I wanted to have people as co-hosts on this series who simultaneously love where they're from and also understand, through some sort of analytical distance, whether it's in writing or actually leaving the place, what is also like hilarious, weird, alarming, all of these things. So what do you think is all of these things about SoCal just generally?
I mean, I think one of the distinguishing factors is just like diversity on steroids. Like,
yes.
So, because I travel a lot through the United States. I mean, especially through the American South, the American Southwest, but also, going to New York. I've been to a lot of places, and like I go to almost any other airport in the country. And I don't fly out of LAX much because, again, I'm in Orange County, so I go through John Wayne.
Also because LAX sucks.
You know what? I am like the only person on the planet who doesn't think LAX sucks. I'm sorry, folks. Show up 2 hours before your flight and you're going to be okay. I'm sorry. I swear, I go to any other airport and I always think, wow, I forget how many white people there are in this country. Because you just do not see where white people are a majority. Sure, there are places in Southern California where they're that, but even then, I mean, that would actually be an interesting survey for me to try to figure out, like, what is the whitest city left in Southern California? Because I mean, I can't. Maybe like the super, super exclusive places at this point, like Bradbury, like Newport Beach, I know is very, very white. But even then, like, we're not talking about the John Wayne era. And by the way, John Wayne, all of his children, half Latinos, because he only married Latinas. So that's what I'm saying. So that would be the first thing that I think distinguishes the Southern Californian. Like, we, whether you like it or not, we are part of a diverse clientele. The other big one, and this puts us more in the realm with Texas, which Texas, North SoCal will want to hear this, but I think the base when we talk about food is going to be Mexican food. Like, and especially with Southern Californians, that has been our mother's milk now for about 140 years, where everyone is eating a style of Mexican food one way or another. And sure, you have all these other ethnic places for the immigrants, and it's amazing food. But the children eventually realize, well, hey, Mexican food, let's put pho in our burritos. Let's put, let's make tacos out of bulgogi. Let's do this and that. So I would do that. And then a third thing, like, what makes us Southern Californian?
I mean, this gets to one of the questions that we'll get to, I think, later is, like, it's hot. There's outdoor culture. There is an outdoor culture that I think is very different, and also car culture, right? Like this understanding
car
that,
culture.
That you will be in traffic for a long amount of time, and that's just how things are.
And that is the negative part of car culture. Like, that's the stuff that everyone deals with. Like, I was recently out in Colorado. I did lectures at Colorado Springs and Pueblo. And so I would see my distance. Oh, it's going to be 60 miles. Oh, God, it's going to take me 5 hours. No, it's going to take me 60 minutes.
It took you 50 minutes even.
Whereas 60 miles in Southern California is going to take you to like Simi Valley, and that's going to take you about 3 hours, which is like and the whole time you're not moving, you're just stuck in traffic. So that's sort of the negative part of car culture. But the other important thing is that we are all incredibly proud of what we drive, whether it's your imports, whether it used to be Teslas, but now, your Audis, your Lexuses, your like higher end cars, whether they are or not, whether it's a low rider, whether it's the VW bus, Whether like I did like one of the columns that I did, I think it was maybe in 23, but California is basically by 2026, they want to outlaw chroming in vehicles, chroming for anything. And so the stance that I took, look, I love the environment. I do think we need to crack down, especially on environmental racism. And a lot of these chroming facilities are now in working class neighborhoods. But when we talk about like who are we trying to save from chroming, it's also who are we being punitive. And that is working class cultures, specifically Mexican and Black culture, where we love our big freaking bumpers, our hubcaps, just as shiny as a diamond. And so I went and talked to, went to car clubs and all of that. And they're like, yeah, this is crazy. And by the way, if you're going to try to stop us from doing the chroming, we're just going to go to Tijuana or Arizona to get it. But yeah, car culture, huge. And that's actually one that I just take so for granted that when I go elsewhere, like I don't really know. It's like, oh yeah, people don't really care about their cars. Easter Sunday, I thought, everyone's at church. No one's going to be at the car wash. Yeah, right. Like line out, because I guess you need to look for your Easter best. It's not just what you dress, but what you're driving.
It's so funny because here in Washington, like if you get your car washed, it's just going to rain the next day.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? And I grew up, though, on the other side of the mountains in Idaho, and also in a place where like car culture was huge. Like when you got your first car when you were 15 or 16, it was always a hand-me-down in some capacity. But then like the point of pride was you fixed it up.
Yeah.
Right? And you fix it up with your friends and like these gorgeous old trucks. Or even like I drove a shitty ass Subaru, but like I put in a 6 stereo because that's what mattered, right? And because some of it, you're not driving in traffic there, but you are driving a lot, just it's distances between places. And I think like when you spend more time in your car, that place becomes more of a point of pride and identity than elsewhere, for better or for worse. Right?
And because you mentioned trucks, and I forgot to mention trucks because of course Southern Californians love their trucks as well. And I think that's where the car culture is different from other areas because our temperature is so beautiful. You could drive them all. Out in Idaho, you need a sturdy car. You're probably not going to you're not going to have a lowrider as a daily driver because the snow's just going to eat through it. So you're going to get your Ford F-150s, your little Toyotas, your GMCs, of course. You're going to get the Subarus, and they're all beautiful cars. And we all have them, by the way, here in Southern California as well. But here's like, you see it all. Going back to what I said, the diversity, just diversity of everything.
Today's episode is sponsored by Wild Alaskan Company. Melody, where do you live?
I live in Missouri.
When was the last time that you truly trusted where your seafood was coming from?
Probably when I was on vacation in Maine. Definitely not while I've been home.
So the other day we both got these big, beautiful, dry ice packed coolers of incredible fish. They came from Wild Alaskan Company, and it's wild caught, perfectly portioned, nutrient dense seafood, and it comes directly to your door, not in super wasteful packaging. It's great. What did Bobby make for you?
How did you know? Bobby made the coho salmon with this like honey mustard glaze and some pretzel crusting.
Oh, yum.
It was so good. When you buy salmon at the grocery store in Missouri, it has like just a hint of fish about it. But like I love salmon. And so the coho salmon was just so salmony. And it's like this deep pink.
Yeah.
It was so rich. It was so good.
Charlie grilled ours with his very standard rub, which is a little bit of soy sauce and a little bit of brown sugar. Ooh. It was amazing. This is 100% wild caught and never farmed. This means there are no antibiotics, GMOs, or additives. Just clean, real fish that support healthy oceans and fishing communities. Wild Alaskan fish is frozen off the boat to lock in taste, texture, and nutrients like omega-3s. That's why it tastes like actual fish, Melody, not just whiff of fish. Mm-hmm. And it's sustainably sourced. It's wild caught from Alaska, and every order supports sustainable harvesting practices. Your membership delivers flexible shipments, expert tips, and truly feel-good seafood. So you can try it risk-free. It's 100% money-back guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied with your first box, Wild Alaskan Company will give you a full refund. No questions asked, no risk, just high-quality seafood. Not all fish are the same. Get seafood you can trust. Go to wildalaskan.com/culture for $35 off your first box of premium wild-caught seafood. That's wildalaskan.com/culture for $35 off your first order. Thanks to Wild Alaskan Company for sponsoring this episode. The Culture Study Podcast is sponsored by Mosh. Can I just say I love a bar? This is a thing that all of my friends know about me. They're like, oh, did you have your bar for breakfast? Like, I love a bar. I love a snack bar, all of those things. Melody, I feel like you're more mixed on a bar.
You know, I'm not a big bar head, but I do really rely on a purse snack.
Yeah.
Because when I get hungry, it's like do or die. Like, I am desperately hungry. I need to eat right now. And if I don't have a snack in the bag, it's a bad time ahead.
Yeah. And you want a bar that's not too sweet. Mm-hmm. And you want something that's going to actually make you feel full.
And it can't be too mushy, and it can't be too crumbly where it gets all over your car.
And you need to have lots of good flavors.
Yes. That's where Mosh comes in.
It is. I really like the lemon crumble flavor.
That was my favorite too. I felt like I was just eating a lemon bar while I was stuck in traffic.
Yeah. So Mosh, you might have heard about this brand on Shark Tank. It was founded by Maria Shriver and her son Patrick Schwarzenegger with a simple mission to create a conversation about brain health through bars or through food research and education. Maria's father suffered from Alzheimer's, and since then, she and Patrick have been trying to figure out how to help other families dealing with Alzheimer's and other types of memory loss. So Mosh joined forces with a bunch of top scientists and nutritionists to go beyond just your average bar. There are 8 different flavors, including a plant-based one and peanut butter and chocolate. And each one is made with ingredients that support brain health, like collagen and omega-3s. Mosh also donates a portion of all proceeds from your order to fund gender-based brain health research through the Women's Alzheimer Movement. Why gender-based? Because 2/3 of all Alzheimer patients are women. Mosh is working closely to close the gap between women and men's health research, which is something that we have actually talked about several times on this show. So that's pretty awesome. So if you want to find ways to give back to others and fuel your body and your brain, Mosh bars are the perfect choice for you. Head to moshlife.com/culture to save 20% off plus free shipping on the Best Sellers Trial Pack. That's 20% off plus free shipping on the Best Sellers Trial Pack at moshlife.com/culture. Thank you, Mosh, for sponsoring this episode. So our next question, I would not throw at just anyone, but I would throw at you because you are also a history buff and you love like the history of specific places. This question comes from Brian.
Do folks in Southern California visit the old Spanish missions, maybe on high school field trips? Visiting Old Town San Diego while in town on a work trip revealed a place eerily similar to Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia, just with a Spanish colonial flavor instead of a British one. I've also visited the La Purísima Mission when in Lompoc, and I saw a statue of Junipero Serra near the state capitol building in Sacramento. Colonialism has a complicated legacy, but the history and influence is insightful, especially given the names of most major California cities are tied to the missions and saints.
First, can we just talk a little bit about the role that missions played just in the formation of what we now know as SoCal?
Not just SoCal, but all of California. And yes, Junipero Serra, who's now a saint, he was a Dominican who in the late 1700s, started in 1769 was a Portola expedition, but basically the first Europeans who traveled through inland California were Spaniards who were doing it in the name of the crown, but also in the name of evangelizing through Catholicism. So they set up, I think it was 21 missions going from San Diego. I think the most northern one is Santa Rosa, so in the Bay Area. But yeah, they went up there. And at least what they teach us in schools, and yes, it's all about schools, is that they were roughly a days away from each other walking. Like so slowly but surely, they fell into this, so this was during the Spanish era. They fell into disrepair during the Mexican era, which wasn't that long. Then by the time Americans start coming in droves, truly after the Civil War, a lot of these were in disrepair. But because of this novel named Ramona by Helen Hunt Jackson, who she sought to tell the story of the Mexicans who were here and oppressed by the Americans and also the Native Americans. So she she tried to do like sort of a California version of Uncle Tom's Cabin. But instead of sparking a civil war, it did the opposite. It had Americans wishing for the days that never really existed, the days of the gay Spanish dons and senoritas doing fiestas for weeks on end. And so all of a sudden, people started wanting to dress like Spaniards, wanting to eat like Mexicans.
Like fetishism.
Fetishism.
Yeah.
Fetishism. Kerry McWilliams, the legendary progressive historian, he deemed this as Spanish fantasy heritage. And to this day, we are still infected by it. That's why when you have the more recent developments, housing developments, you have like fake Italian named communities with Spanish tile homes and arches. We still have that. That's a whole podcast episode, just the mania of this. But to sum it up really briefly, yes, the missions are still around. They're owned now by the Catholic Church. So they went into private ownership and then they ended up going back into the church.
Oh.
Yeah, and President Lincoln actually turned that over. He turned all the missions to the Catholic Church when he became president. And like during the Civil War, he does this. Then they got rehabilitated mostly by private donations. Today, they're still existing. Here in Orange County, you have Mission San Juan Capistrano, famous for the swallows returning to Capistrano. That's probably the most famous mission in the United States. I mean, in San Juan Capistrano, right across the street from it is Heritage Barbecue, one of the great barbecue places in the United States, because it's Southern California barbecue, so it's a little bit of everything with the brisket and all of that. So I go down there more often than not, and you see some adults going in, but really it's these buses of kids, because to this day, one of the great brainwashing experiments in the United States and in public education, I think it's fourth grade. Whenever they teach us about California history, no, maybe it's second grade, but almost all public school kids still have to build a replica of a mission. I did it. They're still doing it. Even in progressive woke California, we're still building these missions. You could use sugar cubes, you could use popsicle sticks, you could use Legos, whatever, but you build a replica of the mission. I'm sure now the teaching is more enlightened, but still, like, where on earth, how foundational of a myth is it to California, even to this day, that we're propagating the missions as something that everyone should do? I don't know. I've never been to Colonial Williamsburg. I have very little experience with Virginia, but it would be interesting if they teach kids in Virginia, hey, let's build Williamsburg. Let's build Monticello. Let's build this, and that. I don't know if they're doing that.
Right. Or like here, on the various reservations in the Pacific Northwest, there's oftentimes a mission, what used to be a mission, or just the church remains. Like, what if you were teaching kids, like, let's make this like slightly dilapidated church that is on like a vestige of colonialism that is on the reservation that's near you. It must just be like tradition. Like, you can't get rid of it.
And that's the thing. Like, we have torn down statues of Columbus. They have removed statues of Junipero Serra, who was declared a saint last decade under much controversy because the mission system, look, the idea of the mission system was, we're going to save indigenous people, their souls. We're going to save them. But how it actually worked out, like they brought Native Americans who wanted to be converted into the mission system. But there's so many horror stories of death by disease, lashings, rape, straight up rape. Like, this is documented in the own narratives of the Spaniards. And this is who we're supposed to celebrate. Junipero Serra, the architect of this mission system, decimated indigenous communities. Like, it's just very, very and then you go to a lot of these missions and they have graveyards where you have thousands of Native Americans buried there. And so the Native Americans of today, like, it's just so complicated, the actual reality of it. But I have never heard anyone say, no, we should not. we should ban kids from building these missions. I just hope maybe that's a story for me, actually, because how do they teach it now? Because I would hope it's a little bit more enlightened. But at the same time, like, where do we get off telling kids, build these? And all the missions now, they're not dilapidated anymore. They all got refurbished because of Charles Fletcher Lummis, who I just have to shout him out because one of the great antiquarians in American history and also one of the people who popularized Mexican food. So the mission systems, if you have a problem with the mission system being taught, blame the popularity of Mexican food.
But that is a good story for you. And I'm sure we'll actually hear in the comments about how they're teaching it now. Because a lot of our listeners either if they're younger or they have kids who are going through the system right now. So the next question is about a certain type of person who finds a home in Southern California. This comes from Sarah, and Melody's going to read it.
What is it about the culture of SoCal that makes it so ripe for the crunchy to alt-right pipeline? I'm thinking specifically of the surf lifestyle mommy blogger turned MAGA fanatic Jessica Reed Krause, aka House in Habit, but she seems to be a product of her environment rather than an isolated case. Is it just the culture of quote-unquote free spirits that easily morphs into a lifestyle of consuming highly unregulated wellness supplements, raw milk, and not vaccinating your children? Is it a backlash to the solidly democratic politics of the state?
So I think that last part of it is like a huge component. And I think like for people who aren't familiar with House and Habit, this woman used to be more of like kind of like a lifestyle blogger, like designer type person. Now she has the most popular culture Substack in the world. Millions and millions of dollars that she makes every year. And she mostly traffics in conspiracy theories. She's kind of a gossip columnist, but it's like she came out really hard defending Johnny Depp and like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trials. Like, and she like is friendly with RFK and Trump. Like there's a Trumpist component to this celebrity gossip and conspiracy theoristness, which also feels like very similar. It's not exactly the same, but like kind of the QAnon pipeline of like crunchy left to QAnon. So some of it, I think, is the same thing that drives Southern Californians to Idaho, because it's like, well, here I can practice, like I can be who I want, right? Like I can drink my raw milk and I can build whatever structure I want without any permitting and all that sort of thing. But I'm really curious to hear your take.
Is she the one who's based in Orange County?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, because there's one who was just, I mean, and here, this is an interesting thing. Like, we were covering this at the newspaper that I used to edit, OC Weekly, RIP. I remember like in 2016, there was an outbreak of mumps or measles at Disneyland, which we did this cool editorial cartoon of Mickey Mouse totally inflated, like his poor throat. Like it was the funniest thing ever, because that's the type of stuff we would do. But we crunched the numbers, and it turned out that the lowest vaccination rates at the time in California were in South Orange County. Now, South Orange County is the richest part of Orange County. That's when we talk about the Real Housewives. That's sort of in that area, Coto de Caza, Rancho Santa Margarita, and all of this. And the highest rates, and this is before COVID. Remember, this is like 2016, 2017. So those people were not liberals. They just, frankly, in my opinion, a lot of these crunchy granola types, they just have too much money. When you have too much money, you
Yes.
start going crazy. Like,
Yes.
It goes back to this whole idea of Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, like we are going to live forever. Well, you can afford to try to live forever when you have a lot of money. When you're actually a working class type of person, historically, things have changed now, of course, but you're going to scrounge for any little bit possible. So, and that's a thing. I have seen a lot of these crunchy granola types, blah, blah, blah. They're not really liberal. They're not really left. They're proto-fascists who are able to hide behind either their baby boomerism, their money, their performative politics.
Yeah, or they mistake identity politics as politics, right? Like they're like, I'm okay with gay people, and like I will say out loud that I think racism is bad. But the way that they vote with their dollars, and the way that they even would vote if they weren't embarrassed to be Republican, would be different.
And not
right?
only that, the people they surround themselves are mostly gabachos, white people, and like that's no left, that's not even liberal. These are proto-fascist, and in Orange County, you have a bunch of them. You've always had a bunch of them. In also like Beverly Hills, Culver City, all these areas where this. The Erewhon people basically have funneled themselves into this. Then you get the pandemic, then you get Trump, then you get all of this. And it's not surprising that people are now able to make a lifestyle out of it and be really out in the open and say, oh, yeah, no, this is what my politics. And by the way, if you call them conservative, they're like, I'm not conservative. I'm just saying the truth.
Yes, that's right. And I did a fact check. She's from San Clemente. She lives in San
that's
Clemente.
the one. Yeah.
Yes, and she grew up in. So I always love, like, for someone who knows things. She grew up in Corona. I don't know if that tells you anything.
Corona, the city of near all the dairy farms in Chino. So Corona was the place where all my cousins, or a few of my cousins, moved over to because they couldn't afford Orange County anymore. So if she grew up there, though, that's when it was straight up. Well, I'm not going to say it, but let's just say it was a little bit different from where she lives now, economically.
Right. So she and she grew up, it seems from her Wikipedia entry, she grew up with kind of a hard life. But now she is living this aspirational life. But I do think you're right. So much of it is just having too much money and becoming insular and not having anyone who will call you on your bullshit. Right.
What a blessed life. I don't have the time for that crap.
The Culture Study podcast is sponsored by Mill. Sometimes it feels like there are just so many things that we are supposed to be doing all of the time to save the planet. And I know a lot of us get this messaging that you are never, ever doing enough. And sometimes you just need one or two straightforward things that you can do that make your life more sustainable. Mill is one of those things. It's a food recycler. The entire idea is to make keeping food out of the garbage as easy as dropping your food into the garbage. So Mill, it looks like a big garbage can, a big, beautiful garbage can. It's not made of stainless steel, so that means that it's not always getting scuff marks all over it. It's just this beautiful off-white color. So you add your food scraps, and then Mill runs while I sleep. You can keep filling it. I think I empty mine once a week. It never smells. And you can take all of the recycled food and put it into your garden. I've been putting it on top of where my sweet peas are planted, and the sweet peas seem to really like that. Turns it into this clean, dry, nutrient-rich grounds. It's kind of like coffee grounds, but not wet and not smelling like coffee. If you don't have a garden, they also have this great service where they come and pick up all of the recycled food waste, and then they give it to other farms that then use it. So it keeps all of that food waste out of your garbage. I have gotten back in the habit of separating all of my food waste from my regular garbage, and the amount of garbage that is in my garbage can is halved. But you have to live with a Mill to really get it. That's why there is this risk-free trial. You can get $75 off at mill.com/culture. That's mill.com/culture. Today's episode is sponsored by ZocDoc. Both Charlie and I stubbed our toes so significantly that we thought that we had broken them through different means. Charlie just ran into a table with his toe, and I dropped his large man ski boot onto my toe. The bruising was so significant that I thought that I was do I need to get this taped? Should I have someone look at it? Is it just a toe break? Can you even do anything with a toe break? I was so stressed getting ready for various things that were happening in the last 2 weeks that I didn't know, do I try to get into urgent care? Do I call a doctor? What do I do? We've all been in similar situations where you're is this urgent care where they what doctor should I even see? It just feels so stressful to try to even book a doctor's appointment. But thanks to ZocDoc, there's no reason to delay. They make it so easy to find and book a doctor who's right for you. ZocDoc is a free app and a website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, primary care to urgent care, and more. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, are a good fit for any medical need you might have, and are highly rated by verified patients. Once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings, choose a time slot that works for you, and click to instantly book a visit. Appointments made through ZocDoc also happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments, which is really helpful in situations like this. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments today and go to ZocDoc.com/culture to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor. That's ZocDoc.com/culture. ZocDoc.com/culture. Okay, next question is an outside observation from Allison.
As a Texas native, I ask with bemused affection, why do people from Southern California have a constant need to be outside all the time? I married a SoCal native, not Los Angeles, a decade ago, and even though we have lived in the Midwest for almost all of our marriage, I think he still wishes he could comfortably spend entire days outside year-round. The cold in winter and the humidity and mosquitoes in summer sometimes just make outside miserable, and yet the dream of eating every meal on the deck persists. My in-laws even have outdoor heaters so they can be outside when the temperature dips into the 50s. What's up with this?
Okay, so first of all, Texas native. The reason you don't like spending all of your time outside is because half of the year you cannot spend time outside because it's too hot.
That's hilarious.
And the other thing is when you live in the Midwest, and this is something that is not familiar to me as someone who's from the Northwest, when you live in the Midwest, there's bugs everywhere all the time. So of course you're going to be like, ew, outside gross. But us, we live in a place where it is glorious to be outside when the sun is shining.
Oh yeah, I mean it's Southern California, so there's no real bugs because they're all poisoned by all of our car exhaust, except for the Asian tiger mosquito, this small little thing that has just become endemic over the past like 15 years. Oh yeah, we call them ankle biters, small little guys, and just like buzz all around. They love my wife. My poor wife cannot get rid of them fast enough. They mostly leave me alone. But yeah, I mean, look, why don't you want to be outside? Why wouldn't you want to be outside when it's temperate? I mean, you go, and not only that, so much of SoCal culture is because we live in such temperate, beautiful weather. That's why we have our carne asadas. That's why we have our outings in the park. That's why we could go to the Hollywood Bowl, one of the greatest concert venues in the United States, this big, huge 18,000 seat outdoor amphitheater carved into a hill right in the midst of Hollywood. And you see the LA Philharmonic or, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. It actually just celebrated its 100th anniversary last year, I believe. So much baseball, football, not basketball, but you do your pickup games. So yeah, and look, when I'm in New York, I love being out in New York because I love that urban environment. I love the streets and all of that. But where am I going to you go to Central Park, that's just one little part in an urban area. In Los Angeles, despite it being a huge city, there's so much open space. How could you not want to be there?
Well, I will say one thing that's always struck me is it's not super walkable, right? Most places I've been in Southern California. And so you don't, unlike, say, New York, where you walk everywhere, you don't spend a ton of time walking to places. You just spend time outside once you get to the place.
It's the famous song, Lighter Shade of Brown, on a Sunday afternoon. It's a classic. It's neo oldie but goodie because it came out in late 80s, early 90s. And the whole thing is just kicking back in the park on a Sunday afternoon. That's it. And that is just encapsulates the Southern California spirit of how you would want to spend your weekend. Just out in the park in someone's backyard, grilling, drinking, watching sports. Yes, with your outdoor television or now on your phone. And just enjoying it. Why do you want to be in air conditioning, the whole time?
Yeah,
that's what other
that's
parts of the
the
United
thing.
States for. That's what Texas
Right.
is for.
Or you're spending your time in the car and you're like, if I'm not once I get out of the car, I don't want to be in any sort of enclosed space.
Yeah.
Right. And that allergy to, for me in Texas, this was always a problem when I lived there, was that I just, it was over air conditioned all the time. I was cold I was like, how am I cold in the state of Texas for 5 months out of the year? But they're trying to keep anyone who's wearing normal clothes at a normal temperature. So, okay. So we have one more SoCal question that we're going to save for our subscriber only Ask Ann Anything segment. So it's about what someone should know before making the move to SoCal. So can you stick around for this?
Oh, of course.
All right, so if you want Gustavo's insider advice on moving to SoCal and his top 3 restaurant recommendations, that's just if you want to be there at some point, you have to become a paid subscriber. Head to culturestudypod.substack.com to get the full conversation. It's been such a pleasure to have you. This is my platonic ideal of an episode.
Aww.
So where, besides your newsletter, which we'll link, where else can people find you on the internet if they want to find more from you?
I mean, honestly, the newsletter is the best thing because I would say Instagram, I'm over Instagram. Facebook, nah. Twitter, I'm still on because it's a cesspool, but I always knew it was a cesspool. And honestly,
when I saw you last time, you were checking it. I was like, why are you still there? And you're like, it's curiosity, right? You're it's interesting to observe almost.
And that's the thing. I don't even follow any of the alt loser shit. I'm following super 70s sports and like the Hard Times, which is like the Onion but for punks. It's like all it is parody stuff, and they're still there. If they all migrated elsewhere, I'd probably go, but they're all there. And I've also been in a 7-year-long GIF war with like 44 people where we just send gifts to each other. I cannot end it, so I'm gonna be there until I get suspended, and I've been suspended in the past, so that might happen.
Amazing. Thank you again so much. This has been just incredible.
No, gracias as always.
Thanks for listening to the Culture Study Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts because we have so many great episodes in the works, and I promise you don't want to miss any of them. If you want to suggest a topic, ask a question about the culture that surrounds you, or submit a question for our subscriber-only advice time segment, go to our Google form at tinyurl.com/culturestudypod or check the show notes for a link. And if you want to support the show and get all of the bonus content, head to culturestudypod.substack.com. It's just $5 a month or $50 a year. You'll get ad-free episodes, an exclusive advice time segment, and weekly discussion threads for each episode. You also get a big deal if you are already a subscriber to the Culture Study newsletter. There's a link for that in the show notes. The Culture Study Podcast is produced by me, Anne Helen Peterson, and Melody Rowell. Our music is by Poddington Bear. You can find me on Instagram at Anne Helen Peterson, Melody at Melodious47, and the show at Culture Study Pod.